Rejection is just redirection.
Can we be friends? Just so you can say things like that every day? My name is Danny Pintaro.
Sean Weiss.
It's Amber Frank.
Nina Liu.
Ainsley Bailey.
Carla Jeffrey, and you are watching Spectrum.
I wish I had never been a child actor.
I always say it was like high school on steroids because you already naturally have your insecurities, and also like when I was on my show, it was right when like Instagram was coming out and stuff too. So everybody, the whole world had an opinion that was so accessible to you, and being able to navigate that was challenging. But at the same time, it's like, I just know innately, like I'm such a creative, artistic person that I wouldn't want to change the life that I had. I also want to believe that like you always are on the path you're supposed to be on. Sometimes, especially when you're struggling and you're attaching your self-worth, which I feel like a lot of people do, you attach it to like how much you're working, or you feel like if you do anything else, you lost.
Exactly.
Or you like failed at it.
Exactly.
But you always can be a normal person too. It doesn't have to be who you are. My name is Amber Frank, and I started acting at 8 years old. And you might know me from Nickelodeon's The Haunted Hathaways or Netflix's Spirit Riding Free. I would say in those moments where I felt like I wasn't good enough, I would love to tell my younger self, go find something that makes you feel like yourself and makes you feel like you don't need something to tell you what your self-worth is. Go and find something that you just are so in love with, none of that other stuff matters. And I would say that because that's what I ended up doing in my early 20s that really helped heal that part of my younger self.
In my scenario, like, I don't know what else I would have done in life. And I just feel like I've had the best life. There's been definitely some rough patches. Yeah, I ran into trouble in my late 30s when really that's what happened. The work dried up. And I ended up doing drugs and having a really bad drug problem. And that never happened to me when I was on set. It was never related to working. Those problems started when the work wasn't there. And life really could be very boring when you're not running around on set and doing fun stuff like press kits. And, you know, without the travel and all that stuff, I became bored and sort of depressed. But I can't really blame it on the entertainment industry, you know?
I have a question for you, which is, like, did you have a community outside of the entertainment industry?
Not really, and that's the other way I think being a child actor definitely affected me, in that all the friends that I've ever had in life were only people that I was working on stuff with. And when the job is over, a lot of times the friendship is over too, because you're just separated. But while you're working, you're with each other every day. So my name is Sean Weiss. I started acting at the age of 6. A lot of people know me as the little fat kid from Mighty Ducks and the little fat kid from Heavyweights and just the little fat kid from a lot of things in the 90s. What happened was I think I started with substances because I didn't like being overweight. And sometimes I would have almost like a panic attack because I had all this fat on me and I couldn't get it off me and So I think I started drinking alcohol at an early age in the evenings to combat that feeling of not wanting to be in my body. And, you know, I didn't even realize it till recently, but I had a friend ask me if I was mad at my mother. And I was like, why would I have been mad at my mother? And they pointed out to me that my mother kept me overweight and made me overweight so that I could get parts. That was my lane. I was the fat kid. And instead of insisting or teaching me about a healthy diet and insisting that I got healthy, she pushed me in the other way just so I could get parts. So how do I feel about that? I don't know. I think I'm a little mad about that. I just had never thought about it.
For me, a lot of these questions are going to end up coming back to this idea, which is that if there's anything I regret, it's the stuff that happened afterwards. In 1997, I was outed by the National Enquirer which back then was a very big deal, like career-ending thing. Like, for me to expect to get a job after that was virtually impossible. And then in 2015, I did an interview with Oprah where I talked about being HIV positive. So I have these boxes, right? And the boxes outside, the boxes climb on top of the other boxes of child celebrity and make it very hard for me to find a niche in this business, right? My name is Danny Pintaro. I started acting at the age of 2. And the thing you might know me most well for is Who's the Boss, ABC sitcom. The process of finding out that I was going to be outed by the National Enquirer was really scary. I was at Stanford at the time. I was in the middle of finals. I was living life normally, and I was open to people in my life, but I was not open to the rest of the world. And I got a call from the Enquirer one day saying, hey, we're going to do this story about you, whether you like it or not. It was life-changing, and I would never take it back, because who I am as a human is intrinsically tied to that moment. The hardest part about coming out and being so public about it was the rejection from the business, the rejection from family, the rejection from fans, because a lot of people weren't okay with the idea, the negative press that came with it. But overall, it really was a great experience in the sense that the moment I started getting letters from other people saying your story is so important and has prompted me to tell my family, or you being there has kept me alive, knowing that there are other people who are like me. So when that started happening, the table turned, and I realized that it was so important for not just me, but for everyone else.
Because I started acting when I was 12, and I used to be like close to 300 pounds. One of my first jobs, it was called Fat Girls.
Oh.
And like literally the lines, I had to sit there at the cafeteria table. I played the actress Monique. She was a comedian. Literally what the kids had to say, fatty, fatty, 2x4, can't fit through the cafeteria door. And I'm just like, really? But you know, I got used to it. And I'm just like, you know, it's acting. But
I'm sorry.
Yeah, do it. I was gonna do it too, but I didn't know if we could go.
I don't know if we're allowed to hug you, so. I really appreciate it.
This is allowed, but I don't care.
my name is Carla Jeffrey. You might know me from Zombies 1, 2, and 3. That was actually the first role that I booked. And I always had insecurities, especially when I was younger, because I was a lot bigger. You know, everybody was trying to tell me, oh, it's just a role, you know. I tried to tell myself that. I did have a lot of hard times dealing with it when I would go on auditions and I would see all the small girls in there. And I would look and I'm like, this is my competitions. They are so much smaller than me. And I felt like I had to be 10 times better. And that's what I felt like I had to do as a big girl. Give it my all and more.
I try to live with the philosophy to like not have too many regrets. So I'm grateful for my experience as a child actor, given how those skills have transferred over into what I do now. I think I would have a lot less issues had I not been a child actor. Like I do sometimes wish like, oh, I wish I would have just been like an accountant. I think just growing up in that environment, like I just so much body image issues. Like that's definitely one of the biggest ones. When you grow up as a child actor, I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this, you don't have a normal childhood. You're essentially trained to be at the service of adults and to be a product. And so I never really thought of myself as a person in a lot of ways.
What if the story you're telling yourself isn't the whole story? We're all moving through life boxed inside an invisible, personal reality filter, a perception box. Your perception box shapes how you see the world and how you judge yourself and others, often without you even realizing it. So if something in this episode makes you a little uncomfortable, ask yourself, what am I reacting to? What story am I believing? And what might I be missing? Now let's get back to the video. Being a child actor made me resilient.
I don't have any regrets, but my whole story, everything led up to me being homeless on the streets of Los Angeles for 3 years. Looking back, I don't even know how I survived one night. I really don't. I can't believe I did that. And, you know, the strength that was necessary to recover, to get clean, was something that was built up in me all the years of being in the industry, to the point where when I was panhandling in front of a 7-Eleven and people were acting like I didn't even exist, I knew how to deal with that sort of rejection.
Whoa.
I had a confluence of situations. In the span of about 2 weeks, my father died, and I was his caretaker and his nurse, and he was my best friend. My fiance, who thought I was in love with and was gonna get married to, left me, and my lease on my apartment ran out. And I didn't have money to go get a new place. And I literally have lost everything. Any person I've ever loved, I've lost. Anything that I've ever had is gone. And now it's true. I mean, I used to look down on people on the bus, and then I ended up riding the bus. So it really helped me be a better person, unfortunately. Being homeless on the streets of Los Angeles is not easy. They tried to kill me a couple times. They put me in the hospital several times, but I don't have any regrets. I'm happy I went through it because I really like the person that I am now. And I've never been able to say that. My whole life, there's always been something about my personality that I felt needed improvement. Literally, I made myself in such a way that I had to lose everything for me to enjoy anything.
It does teach you a lot because you're expected as a child actor. They don't hold space for the fact that you're a kid. You're expected, you're not respected as an adult yet, but you're expected to be showing up as one.
Yes.
I feel
Absolutely.
I feel like I took a lot of pride in being professional.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did too.
Professional.
I did too.
It was like
for
the best
sure.
compliment I could receive. And I feel like it made me resilient when I was like filming and stuff. Like I would complain, like, I think when I first started, like I would complain sometimes. I'd be like, I'm really tired, and I'm kind of hungry, or I'm kind of like, and then I think like one of my older co-stars were trying to like get me used to being a child actor, like getting me used to this environment and showing me the ropes. And they were kind of like, hey, like, you don't say that here. Like, look at the crew over there. They're tired too. Do you think the director's tired? He's tired too.
Yeah.
Like, is anyone saying they're tired? No. So what's the respectful thing to do? We don't say we're tired.
The first 5 years I lived in LA, I was auditioning all the time. Like, my odds were against me. And because I had this like pressure to provide, I was like, just so ready to tell my parents, like, we gotta leave LA. I don't wanna do this anymore. And I remember I went on this one audition for another Nickelodeon show, and I actually got really close on it, and I thought it was the one that I was gonna finally get, and I didn't get it. And I remember just being such a mess, and I was crying, and I just didn't feel good enough. It was like one of the first times in my life that I had that understanding of like feeling not good enough. And so I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. No more auditions. And I talked to my dad, and he was like, look, you love this. And if you really don't want to do it by the end of the year, you don't have to, but like, believe in yourself. It could be the next one. And then the next one was literally The Haunted Hathaways, which was my show that I booked the lead on and did 50 episodes of. So whenever I'm going through a time where I feel like I'm not going to see the other side of this, I remember that moment, and it's easier said than done. But I always try to take myself back there and be like, it just takes one opportunity to turn your life around. And so I think that's where I started to learn like the power of resilience. And also like, we're on a floating rock. It's not that deep. We're stronger than we think we are. And so sometimes you just have to take a step back. And I think, like you said, with constant rejection, you learn that eventually you'll find where you belong. And rejection is just redirection.
My parents cared more about my career than my childhood.
This makes me sad. There was just so much of like chasing me being this big deal that I felt like like the things that a normal kid needs to grow up in a healthy environment, I didn't always get. And that's not like, I will prompt with this is like, I think my parents did the best with what they could and what they knew. But as like a kid, when I'm 9, 10 years old, like living out of a car in a motel, it's like, we came to LA for this. Like, that's how bad my career needs to matter. It definitely affected my mental health because even there was so many times where it's like, oh, you don't need to go to school today. You have an audition. You know, it's like that always felt like it came first. And I also felt like I got more attention when I was successful, when I was working, when I was making money, than like when I wasn't. I kind of felt like I was back on the back burner. When I was actively working, I felt like I got more attention, and when I wasn't booking work, I feel like when I was a subject for people to brag about and talk about or bring places, then I meant something to somebody. And then when I wasn't special in that way, I didn't get as many phone calls and text messages and invited to places. I didn't get to do all the cool things. And it started to affect me in a way where I felt like my self-worth was based off of how successful I was as an actor. So as a kid, it was challenging for me to find my own voice and my own self-worth and figure out who I was without acting. And that was probably the biggest challenge for me coming into adulthood, was feeling like I meant something without being on TV. So it definitely impacted me in a way of feeling invisible and not good enough. But it also kind of taught me to find really good people in your life and to find other passions and hobbies too.
My mother had a really bad gambling problem.
Oh.
And my dad estimates that she gambled between $5 and $7 million. Oh my God. Over a 20-year period of time. So definitely my mother, for her, I was like her gambling money.
Sure.
When I look back, it's how I got in trouble with like substances, because I'd be over there like sneaking a bottle while she'd be sneaking a trip to Atlantic City. And so our secrets kind of canceled each other out.
Oh, wow.
She let me get away with that, and I let her get away with the other thing.
I had the luxury of great parents who just were like, every day, every audition, if you don't want to do this anymore, you don't have to. But for me, everything that happened, every audition, I would land the job. So it just never stopped. And I never had that moment of struggle. As a kid, it was to the point where I got a thing, we did it in LA, it got picked up. We had to move across country because of it. We had money at the time. Yeah. But it was later when the career was over and I was focused on college. It was after college. I think they thought maybe like, okay, he's graduated, let's get him back, let's get him going. And then I came out. And I think the thing that didn't sit well with them was the fact that they knew that that would just be the end of it. At that time, in 1997, being out actor was a surefire way to end your career. So that's when I saw the repercussions, where they were just worried that I had basically ruined this thing that we had made because I was being my true self.
I just feel like my childhood, I felt like this strong shift when I was on the show where acting's not a hobby, it's a career now.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to have that pressure, I feel like is something that you really should consider. You really need to do your research about before you put your child into this line of work.
Because it completely changes the relationship between the two.
Oh,
yes.
And like I noticed like
My words out of my mouth.
my parents weren't like this, but I saw a lot of my friends growing up that were in the same situation. It was like they started to get away with so much because their parents felt like they're paying the bills, so I can't say shit.
I still felt like I see your dynamic with me shifting. You see me as someone bringing in money for our family. And it's really, really hard for your child not to associate that with their self-worth when you start treating them differently, when you start rewarding them.
Like money, that situation is like the one thing that I still at times struggle with because life for me could look so differently right now. And that's where I felt like I lacked that protection from my parents.
I think just being a child actor, you know, for all of us, like your parents must be so involved in it. Like they are involved with your career. This is like part of them as well as part of you.
The attention I received was addictive.
For me, it was just like being the center of attention. I was the youngest of 5 kids, so maybe that started something. I just craved attention. But once you I remember the feeling of going into an audition room and having a great audition and coming out of there and seeing the looks on all the other kids' faces. And that was just like the best feeling for me. The best feeling for me. So yeah, that was probably my first addiction.
Interesting.
I feel like for me, the reason why I landed on strongly agree this time is because it all ties in with my origin story with acting. Cause when I started out in school, I was bullied for a bit and I didn't fit in that well. I had social anxiety, and maybe part of it did come from English wasn't my first language when I started out in kindergarten. And it was just hard to make friends. When I got my first job, which was a series regular on Disney Channel immediately for a couple years, my first thought was this'll show these bitches at school. And it was it was really addictive for me, even from the start, because I saw it as this is my secret super, I was Hannah Montana, this is my double life. And I really fantasized about being on this show and being famous and everything, but it was so much lonelier than what I predicted. My name is Nina Liu. I started acting at the age of 10, 11-ish, and you guys might recognize me from Disney Channel's Bunked. I really enjoy proving people wrong with being successful, and being a really successful actor, I think, was really big for me at the time because I had been bullied pretty badly in elementary school, middle school. I wasn't really a talkative person. I was kind of afraid to speak up. But when I started doing acting, it felt like it was this outlet for me to just express myself. And you can't really bully someone there because you're just you're getting praised and you're getting positive feedback for your bold personality. Part of me, as I was building up the confidence in acting, part of me was also I was really looking forward to that day for everyone to realize, wait a minute, Nina is really funny. She is really great. We've been missing out on this whole time by just bullying her instead of being friends with her.
I was determined to be a normal kid. I just wanted to be a normal kid. And I actually had the luxury, I went to a high school while I was filming Who's the Boss. I've never heard of it otherwise.
Yeah, I don't even know how you
I'm
did
the
that.
only kid who's ever done it, and it is the reason that I am where I'm at today. I'm so grateful to my parents. They went to the producers and they said, either you let him go to school or he's not coming back, because the child celebrity thing had already started happening. When I got to school, I was so popular and I had that moment, but I was so determined to be a normal kid. I didn't feed into the celebrity. And I think they also kind of knew that I was different. And within a week, I had no friends. Nobody wanted to talk to me. They all realized that I wasn't gonna get them what they wanted, which was to feel like a celebrity's friend.
Yeah.
And it backfired on me.
I tried to not talk about the fact that I was an actor in school because then people would look at you differently. And there was a girl one day, she found out I was an actress. This was in 6th grade. It was the first couple months of middle school. And for a week, she would stare at me and not say anything. And one day she just came up and literally punched me in the hallway.
Oh my God.
Punched you? Wait, why?
Girl, good question.
Did you ask her what?
I don't know. I mean, my mom, I went home crying. She's like, it's jealousy. And I'm like, maybe that's why I hated attention when I started succeeding as an actor, is because I took it as a negative thing.
Interesting.
Because I got, somebody lashed out at me for it. And so I literally I stopped going to that middle school and I did homeschool the rest of my K through 12. I never really went to middle school. I never went to high school. I just kind of started to connect attention with it being a negative experience.
For me as a kid, it was not the attention, it was the safety in being good at something that had a very clear structure that adults praised me for. My peer groups were did you guys grow up in acting studios, acting classes?
Oh yeah.
I don't know a single girl who got out of my acting studio without an eating disorder or body dysmorphia. It became stuff was not hinted at. It was, a man would stand in front of the class, someone who worked with my manager at the time, the head of the studio, and just say, girls, it's not enough to be a perfect 10, to be an 11, you have to be a 12. to like 12-year-old girls and like
I'm really glad
like,
I missed that.
I heard.
Wow.
So it was just this pressure of like, okay, I have to be the skinniest, and like just so much focus around food. My name is Ainsley Bailey. I started acting when I was 9 or 10 years old, but you might know me from a Disney Channel show called Shake It Up, and I started filming that when I was 17. We were really trained as kids of like professionalism is such a big thing for child actors. There was this, being drilled into us of like, you want to be easy to work with. You don't want to be difficult on set, which means you do what you're told. You speak when you're spoken to. You don't speak out. If something's uncomfortable, you don't say anything. So like, there would be a lot of times when I was doing, like local productions or things where, we might be doing something where I was in a lot of pain shooting something, or, I would end up with a bunch of like bruises and stuff. You could never say like, hey, can I like get like some padding for this, fall or whatever I'm having to do? Like, it's so weird because when you're a child actor, you get so rewarded for crying in scenes, but there's no room for emotions outside of that. I mean, I think I internalized a lot of this stuff. I internalized a lot of the perfectionist stuff. I just wanted to do a good job, and I wanted the adults around me to praise me. And squashing a lot of my, discomfort with certain things, like, to me, it was like a badge of honor. So I didn't look at it as like, oh, this is hard or scary or this makes me feel bad. It was kind of a thing of like endurance, and I would feel like, just proud of, kind of pushing myself to whatever limits I needed to.
I missed out on a real childhood.
I feel like I missed out on a regular childhood, but it felt very much like my choice. I'm very lucky in that my parents did not push me into this at all. It was something that I found and immediately clung to and was just like, this feels safe. I am good at this. This makes sense to me. And it put me in an environment where I related more comfortably with adults when I was a kid.
I was so lucky. My parents were so good about this. Like, I have people that I still are friends with from elementary school, vaguely, from middle school, high school, and then I went to college. Like, I got to live that life, but it was because I demanded it. But really, if my parents hadn't convinced the producers to let me actually go to school, I mean, no offense in any way, how many of you graduated high school? How many child actors?
GED count?
Yeah.
GED, I mean, sort of, right?
Not an actual graduation, but
never
online.
wore a cap and gown.
Yeah.
Never wore a cap and gown, right?
But you did, you had your cap.
I had that. I went to Stanford University. I would never have gotten into Stanford if I hadn't actually gone to school.
At times, I feel like the biggest thing for me that I missed out on was like being able to just make more mistakes more freely and not being so judged.
Yeah.
She's smart.
That's so smart. Yeah.
I had probably more of my feelings of missing out on a real childhood due to like our financial struggles more so than like being a child actor. Definitely feel like the pressure of having to be the provider took away the like main magic of being a kid, which is not having to worry yet.
Like, what's childhood? Like, I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. I went to school when I wasn't working. I think that's probably the biggest one. I have a core memory of one day leaving school early, going to New York City from New Jersey for an audition. And then I remember my mom racing like hell to drive us back to New Jersey so that I could get to my baseball game. And I got to my baseball game right as I was getting my at-bat, and I changed in the car, put on my outfit in the car. I got up to the plate, and I hit a home run.
Wow.
Best memory of my entire life.
That's such a good memory. Everyone has that thing that they're not achieving. And we spend so much time living in the future rather than living in the present moment. Living in the present is what's going to get you to that future moment. What's good enough for me is being happy, being healthy, being happy in my relationship, being able to pay the bills, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be that I'm a series regular on the biggest show on television. It just means that I'm happy and living life.
In my recovery, working a program, trying to always do the next right thing, earnestly, sincerely, has just, just made me happier and healthier than I've ever been. I would say sincerely, this has been really fun and very therapeutic because I've never had a talk with other child actors about being a child actor.
Yeah.
We really should start like a little group, like a child celebrity support group.
Hit the link below for perception box questions that invite you to zoom out, soften up, and see things a little bit differently.
Great to meet you guys.
I appreciate it.
New friends.
Yeah.